The visualization elements of this course assume that you've obtained and prepared your data and that you've explored it to identify the stories worth telling. But in case you haven't done this prep work yet, here I've included some of the things you should be looking for in your data. This activity is one of the first things you need to do when visualizing data, as we'll see in the section of visualization process. And for reference, if you need a more in-depth look at carrying out an initial evaluation of your data, take a look at my communicatingnumbers.com website. Now, before we carry on, I'd like to point out that this data evaluation step is essential if you're going to get your message across effectively. The results will affect not only the choice of story you're going to tell, but also the selection of the most appropriate visualization technique, and even the selection of the best chart type or the way you present your numbers in a table or as text. This whole evaluation process starts with one simple thought. What questions do you want your readers to be able to answer when they look at your text, tables or charts? What's the story you're trying to tell? One approach to defining the questions your data can answer comes from your natural sense of what stories might be relevant, interesting and available within the data. With this approach, you interrogate the data to verify your pre-formed ideas of what the key stories might be. A second approach uses analytical and visualization techniques to try and discover potentially interesting features in the data. This in turn may suggest interesting questions and possibilities. Of course, you might find nothing, but you may also find plenty. So you must allow time to look, to explore, to uncover the evidence. And it's this second method we'll concentrate on in the rest of this session. Of course, the first thing you need to do is make sure your data is complete and of good quality. Does it have all the variables you were expecting? Does it cover the time period you wanted? Are there any errors, missing values or duplications and so on? How many variables are there and what type of data are they? This will become important when you want to select an appropriate visualization method. Are you looking at the data with the right level of detail? Would it be better to consolidate it further, or should you go for even greater depth? And do you need to consider other associated data for context, or to help with the communication of your message? And also think about whether you can abbreviate any category or label text to help when creating tables or charts, if it's appropriate to create any further summary statistics like percentages, averages, variances or totals, or if you need to standardize or normalize your data. For instance, variables measured at different scales will not contribute equally to the analysis if you don't standardize or normalize. Or maybe you need to consider converting absolute values to percentages because of non-consistent totals across variables you want to compare. Now, once you have all this in place, you need to examine the data to identify the key messages. Start by considering a few descriptive and statistical properties of the data. Can the data be sorted or ranked in any meaningful order? What's the range, the maximum minus the minimum values for each numeric variable? Are there any outliers, unusually large or small values compared with the rest? Are there any trends or patterns over time? What direction do they go and how steep is the slope? And are there any obvious relationships in the data? Are there clusters? Are there gaps? However, while you might be able to accomplish many of the things mentioned on the previous slides by just scanning through the data, don't forget you can also explore your data visually to see what comparisons, trends, patterns and relationships you can identify. This is what will really help you unearth the interesting features in your data and give you the stories you can tell. Maybe create a bar chart comparing the range of some key variables, the differences between the highs and the lows. What questions do these results suggest? Does a wide range show improvement or decline? Does a narrow range show consistency? Does the data vary over time? If so, take a look with a line chart. Are there any trends, exceptions or crossovers? Does the data show an improvement over time or a decline in performance or value? Or is consistency shown once again? Does the composition of the data hold any interest? Is the size of the different items in a category instructive? Or does the distribution of values for a variable or a strong relationship between variables tell you anything? Create a quick histogram or scatterplot. That will soon let you know. But don't worry about the presentation of these charts. They're for your eyes only. They're for exploration, for understanding the messages hidden in the data. Quick and dirty is fine. So having explored the data, do you feel the key messages can be gained from a simple comparison between two items? Or would it be better served by showing the contribution of individual items to the whole? Is the change over time relevant, or is it about relationships, distributions and correlations? Answer all these questions and you should have a better idea of the stories your data can tell. Just remember to seek out those questions and stories before attempting any visualizations. Your reports, presentations and other documents will be all the more effective for it.